Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 22. Dad survived, just like we all did. Even though heartache ripped your heart out, it didn't kill you. Alice, Erin, and I had all lost our boyfriends, and we were now united in what we called the Single Ladies Club. We had a couple more members who were Alice's friends. They had filled the void for her when she and I were separated, and I became friends with them too after I started sitting at their table at lunch. Lauren had never had a boyfriend, and Sarah was in love with her stepbrother. "He's only been my stepbrother for a year," she explained. "We didn't grow up together, and I've never thought of him as my brother. It was love at first sight, you know?" Yes, I did know, but I didn't want to reveal that I had fallen in love through a picture. I also didn't want to talk about Mason. I had gotten pretty good at blocking him from my mind when I was with other people, and I was able to have fun with my friends. I still spent entirely too much time thinking about him when I was alone, though. I still had my hopes set on putting him out of sight and out of mind when I went to college. Having Mom out of sight didn't seem to be helping my dad, but it had only been a few weeks since she'd left. He had smiled sadly when I suggested that he should take Krav Maga classes with me, and told him that they had helped me feel better after my breakup.
"You make me feel better," he told me. "It means the world to me that you chose to stay here with me."
He grimaced.
"I know I'm not supposed to say that and put that kind of pressure on you, but I can't help it."
"You didn't put pressure on me. I made that decision on my own before you even knew that she was leaving." I winced. "She told me before you came home," I explained.
"Yeah, she told me,"
he said.
"You don't know what a difference it made to me, knowing that I still had you, that I wasn't alone, just knowing that you were still in the house."
We hadn't seen each other that evening. I'd had no appetite for dinner and stayed in my room. Judging by the lack of dirty dishes the next morning, Dad had also skipped dinner. It was the weekend, and he had stayed in bed most of the day, which was something he hadn't ever done since I'd known him. "I'm so sorry about Mom," I told him now. "I'm so sorry she did that to you." He sighed.
"A part of me always knew it was too good to be true. When I first met her, I couldn't believe that she was talking to me. She was the most beautiful woman, and she was talking to me. You're not going to believe this," he joked self-deprecatingly. "But I was a nerd in high school. I know. Look at me now."
I smiled, glad that he was able to still joke and smile, however fleetingly.
"She was my dream woman," he said. "And dreams don't last."
"Yeah," I agreed, thinking of Mason. I decided to write him a letter for closure. In it, I told him about my mom leaving and the conversation I'd had with my dad. I told him how he was my dream guy and how it had seemed too good to be true. I explained how Josh had seemed safer because I knew he couldn't break my heart. But it had been too late because I'd already fallen for Mason, and my heart was broken anyway. "I'm sorry," I wrote. "I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm sorry." I mailed it to him the next day, but he didn't acknowledge to me that he had received it. I hadn't expected him to, but I hoped he had at least read it before throwing it away. He continued to act like I didn't exist, so he certainly hadn't forgiven me, even if he had read my apology. While I hadn't forgiven my mom either, I caved to her incessant requests for me to visit her. My dad had also encouraged me to go. Whether I liked it or not, she was still my mother. I suspected that her wanting me to visit was more about showing off her new lifestyle rather than missing me. But I went to stay the weekend with her. The mansion wasn't the grandest one I'd been to. Mason's former mansion held that distinction. But Mom was still living in a mansion. She had definitely snagged a man with money. Seeing them together pissed me off because they looked like Barbie and Ken. Why did Craig have to be attractive too? It wasn't fair that she had gotten everything she wanted while breaking my dad's heart in the process. To top it off, Craig seemed nice. He was friendly and welcoming, but I refused to like him. I was polite, though, but reserved, until I saw my future stepbrother. Then my jaw dropped open as I stared at him. He was the result of Craig's relationship with a Brazilian model, and he was one of the hottest guys I had ever seen. Craig's blue eyes stood out vividly in his son's face, offset by thick, jet-black hair. "Lucas models," Mom told me excitedly. "No kidding," I remarked dryly. Lucas responded with a sexy laugh and winked at me. When I told the story to my friends during lunch at school, I couldn't stop laughing. "I have a hot stepbrother, too," I said gleefully to Sarah. "Did you fall in love at first sight?" she asked. "No," I replied, "but he sure made the weekend more fun." "Did he kiss you?" Erin asked, looking all wide-eyed over my story. She had taken to sitting with us since we all became friends. "No," I said with a laugh. "He's a big flirt, though. Kind of like Tyler, except smoother."
"I resent that," Tyler said from behind me. "I'm very smooth."
I turned in my seat to look at him. "What are you doing here? You're not a member of our club. No boys allowed." He smirked at me.
"What are you, 12? The girls were having so much fun that I had to come see what was going on."
"Ella has a hot stepbrother," Erin told him.
"It's hilarious,"
I said in agreement. He laughed.
"Right, because I always think it's hilarious when someone is hot."
"It is," I insisted. "It's like a scenario from one of those romance novels I used to read. Get this, not only is he insanely hot, but he's a model. How hilarious is that?" Tyler no longer looked amused.
"Do you have a picture of this guy?"
I looked toward Alice, who still had my phone instead of passing it around like I had instructed her to. They had all already seen my personal picture of Lucas, but I had pulled up some of his professional photos to show them. She handed me my phone, and I gave it to Tyler.
"Holy shit," he exclaimed. "You can't live with this guy. He'll sex you for sure."
I rolled my eyes. Sex me? And I'm not living with him. He doesn't even live with his dad. He's a professional soccer player, so he's out on his own. He just came for a visit, like I did.
"Wait, how old is this guy?"
Tyler questioned. 20, I replied. There was a collective sigh from the other girls before Tyler exploded.
"Oh, hell no. He's a freaking man. You can't stay in the same house with that guy ever again."
"Well, I hate to break it to you, but we'll be staying at the same house again for the wedding. My mom is going to be a winter bride," I added, the bitterness creeping into my voice. Erin darted around and snatched my phone out of Tyler's hand. "Wow!" she exclaimed. Sarah and Lauren crowded beside her to look too, while she gazed at Lucas's modeling photos. "Now I think I'm in love," Lauren proclaimed. Tyler affected a disgusted expression and left us to our fun. While the girls were occupied with my phone, I indulged the habit I had been unable to break and snuck a glance at Mason. He was staring right at me. The unexpected shock of it sent a jolt through me. My pulse raced, and I couldn't look away. It had been so long since he had looked directly at me, but it riveted me like always. The realization that nobody else had ever affected me this way was starkly apparent to me when he looked away. I felt the loss of his gaze and his attention, and it took me a moment to regain my equilibrium. He shattered it again when he ambushed me in the hallway after my friends and I parted ways after lunch. Suddenly, he was there and pulling me aside to stare at me with that intense gaze of his.
"Are we even?"
he demanded. My brain was still wrapping around the fact that he was speaking to me. What? I asked in a daze.
Are we even now? Have you had your revenge on me?
My mouth gaped open. I never wanted revenge on you.
But you got it,
he told me tersely.
I went through hell thinking about him touching you.
He expelled a harsh breath.
As you said in your letter, being sorry doesn't make up for anything. So I want to know if we're even now, or if you're still going to hold the past against me.
I'm not, I told him. I'm over that now. After everything that's happened, it's not even on my mind anymore.
Good,
he said.
Because you're all that's on my mind. I tried to get over you, Ella, but I can't.
Hope blossomed in my chest. I can't get over you either. He smiled in response, but his eyes blazed with heat.
That does sound like we're even.
It does, I agreed, as I burned with the desire to kiss him. He leaned in, seemingly pulled toward me like a magnet before his lips crashed down on mine. He groaned like he had gotten something he had long been denied, and then he was kissing me with a hunger that matched my own. A few minutes later, we were both late for class, but extremely happy as we parted. Because we were back together, and we were in love. We'd both said it spontaneously at the same time after our passionate kiss. I love you. My heart swelled with happiness, and this time I had no doubt that we both meant it.